Welcome to A Bit of Insight with Lisa Mosbey, your weekly dose of health, wealth, and everything else. What if the life you keep calling fine is quietly stealing your joy? What if there's more waiting on the other side of stillness, tea, and a little spiritual grit? Today's guest knows exactly how to help you get there, and she's not afraid to shake up your status quo. Hey friends, welcome back to A Bit of Insight, the podcast where we explore what it really means to live well, travel far, and inspire others. I'm Lisa Mosbey, your host, confidence coach, and Amazon bestselling author. Today's episode is for anyone who's been telling the world I'm fine when deep down they knew something's missing, or they're meant for something more. My guest today is Lori Saitz, a powerhouse entrepreneur, transformational life coach, and host of the podcast, Fine is a Four-Letter Word. She's founder of Zen Rabbit and a woman who embodies grace, grit, and grounded wisdom. A communications expert, a master of networking and storytelling, and an unapologetic tea snob. Lori helps people move from quiet discontent into purposeful alignment. Whether she's speaking on a stage, writing copy that moves hearts, or creating community through her podcast, she's leading people home to themselves with kindness, spiritual depth, and the occasional rabbit metaphor. Welcome, Lori. Thanks for being with me today.
Thank you so much. That was quite the intro, Lisa.
Yeah, Lori and I have not really met before. We were connected through another friend, and I don't often let people give me their bios. I like to look at how do they show up online? How do they represent themselves? And that's how I perceive you. How close were we?
Pretty close. There were some elements that I would make edits to, but yes.
What would you like to add so that the audience has a better feel for who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah, a lot of what I'm focused on right now is I was doing a lot of the coaching and I'm still doing a little bit of that. And I'm much more focused now on, because I've had such great success with my own podcast, creating internal podcasts for mid-sized businesses. Again, to help with the culture and connection. That connection piece is the through line into everything I've done.
Yeah, the communication piece. I know that you're a master at communication, and I love that. I'm going to ask you about that, like the conscious communication. And corporations are kind of missing the boat on that. You know, that we're not connecting our employees really all that well, and using an internal corporate podcast is such a brilliant idea. So I do want to go there.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Few things. I love tea. Mine is herbal tea, and it's medicinal. I know yours is a little bit different. Why do you call yourself a tea snob?
Back when I started my first business and I was making and marketing this product called gratitude cookies, I met a woman at I believe it was at a chamber meeting, and she had a tea company, and she taught me, we partnered on a lot of things because cookies went really well with tea. And she taught me a lot about tea. Yeah. And so she kind of turned me into a tea snob, because now it's like, oh, you're not serving loose leaf tea? Okay.
The bag is for others.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they sweep off the factory floor and put into a bag. I'm not drinking that. So
that's the truth. That's what they do, you guys. If you're listening, that is where tea bags come from.
Lipton, or maybe some of the bigger companies, let's just say the more well-known ones. I'm not going to call it. Yeah. But I'm a big fan of different kinds of loose leaf tea, because she taught me a lot about them. And I became, I don't want to say aficionado. That's a little bit too far, but I do enjoy a lot of different kinds of teas.
I love that. I need to get back into tea. I'm doing mushroom coffee, and I hate to use the word addicted, because that's a dangerous word, but I am hooked. I'm attached to it. Like, I can't limit myself to one cup. It just, I don't know, there's something, it just gives me energy. And herbal tea, I find the same way. You know, we don't need to have sugar or artificial this or that, or there's vibrance, there's life in drinking tea, and it's kind of set on the shelf. I'm a nomad. I live in my car, and I have about 25 different herbs with me, kind of mix and match and make my own tea. And it's so fun. So when I got to learn that about you, a light bulb went off in me that said, get back to your tea. So I wanted to start there. I did
Yes.
mention that I was a nomad. You were a nomad for 13 months. I'm in month 14. I want to ask you what your greatest takeaway from being nomadic was. How did it contribute to your life?
It was about leaning into trust and faith because things happened that were not expected and needed to be dealt with. And it was trusting. There were so many nights that the way I did it, I was cat sitting, house sitting and cat sitting, mostly some dogs. But there were plenty of times where I was in between sits. And so I needed to stay at a hotel or an Airbnb. And then there were many times also where there were a couple of nights in between. And I didn't know where I was sleeping that night. Because situations would come up and I thought I was staying with a friend, or I thought I was staying at my dad's at the time. And then that kind of fell through. And so I was like, ooh, what am I doing? And so having that trust that something is going to show up.
Yeah.
And it always, always did. Like this one time in particular, I was in South Florida. I thought I was going to be staying at my dad's. There were some issues around that. And so that wasn't an option. And I was like, I'd already checked out of my hotel and I had this one night and I was like, well, I don't know where I'm sleeping at. And I was having lunch with a friend. I say friend loosely. I would consider her a friend, but we're not like really good friends. We had just met one time before that. And we were having lunch and I mentioned, yeah, I'm not even sure where I'm staying tonight. And she said, well, I have a guest room. Do you want to come stay with me? And so that's just an example of it just all worked out perfectly. And it was so much fun. And she was so gracious to allow me. And it was fun. It took our relationship to another level of getting to know each other and, hanging out, having dinner and talking over probably tea. But
Yeah, the word that comes to mind to me is surrender. Like I've
yeah,
surrendered to this lifestyle that
yeah,
the rules go out the window. I don't have a home. My home
right.
is where, I bring my own teacups. I have my own plates. I have my own pillows, my own sheets, my own bedding. Even staying with friends, I pull that stuff out and use my stuff. It's like, I have coffee cups. It's like, you don't understand. There's rootedness in this coffee cup that both my
Yeah.
parents passed. And that was kind of the impetus for me to decide to do this. I took care of them for a long time. And I said, now I'm just going to totally be free of all responsibility to the best
Hmm.
of my ability. I still have a
Yeah.
business, so I have to be responsible, but I have those things for a reason. They're my ground. I
Hmm.
wear a lot of hats, figuratively, and
Uh,
I have one duffel bag that is just hats. I probably have 50 hats, and everything I own is in my teeny tiny little car. So having that many hats is kind of ridiculous, but it's something that grounds me. I can put on those
yeah.
hats, and it takes me to those memories. So we find the home is within us, and we get to share that home as nomads. We get to share that home with the people that we see and stay with and visit, and the places that we visit. And so thank you for sharing your story. People often ask me, why are you doing this? Why did you do this? Did
Yeah.
you get that question a lot? And I'm
Yeah.
curious what your answer was.
I
Why
got that
did
question a
you?
lot. And the other thing I got a lot was, wow, you're so courageous. You're so
Yeah,
brave. I could
yeah,
never do that,
yeah,
which is interesting because you could, or uh, yeah, it's about surrendering what you think
yeah.
you have to do and allowing yourself to be open to the opportunity to do this. But yeah, so that, and I wanted to mention, since you brought up the word surrender, have you read the book by Michael Singer called The Surrender Experiment?
Gosh, I don't think I have.
It was
It
such a
doesn't sound.
good book.
I thought you were going
Yeah,
to say untethered soul, because that's kind of been that was my Bible
that's
for a year.
that's the one that he's more well known for, I
Yeah,
think. I
yeah. I
couldn't
don't.
get through that book
Oh, I've
for some
so many
reason.
times. It's totally
But
tattered.
the surrender experiment was
Huh.
definitely, and I read it many years ago. But anyway,
Yeah.
back to your question of why I was nomading. It was because I was living in Northern Virginia, and that part of the country will always be home for me. It holds a special place in my heart, and my driver's license still says Arlington, Virginia. My license plates are still Virginia, but I I wanted to go somewhere else. I felt like my time there was finished for now because
Yeah.
I've left several times before and come back, but for now, but I didn't know where I wanted to go. And so that's where I came up with the idea of, well, what if I do some house sitting,
Yeah.
which is usually involves taking care of animals. Like you're not just taking care of a house. It's usually got animals associated with it, which is cool because both of my cats had passed away in 2022. And I was like, cool, I can go, I have the freedom now. And so I don't have to be responsible for or to anyone else. And I can go and play with other people's cats and get my kitty fix and have a place to stay and explore different areas to see where I might want to live. So that was the whole purpose. I didn't really leave too much. I was mostly in the southeast part of the U.S.
Okay.
I was in Kentucky. I was in Ohio to visit friends. So I wasn't always just looking because Ohio was never really in the running, but but I had friends there, and they lobbied hard to get me to move to Cincinnati. No, um, but mostly the Southeast and all over the Carolinas, and that's where, yeah, I ended up in Charlotte,
Beautiful. It did the Biltmore in where's that at now? In
Asheville,
North
Asheville.
Asheville, just a couple of it was about a month ago now. A month ago
Uh-huh.
I was there and then I went into Gatlinburg, Tennessee and stayed in the mountains for a week. And I did that at Christmas time. A friend had invited me to stay there. I said, "Oh, I want to come see the Smoky Mountains when there's no snow on the ground." Yeah, so the beautiful country there. I have not spent a
Yeah.
lot of time there. I lived out west. I lived in Nevada for 15 years, so
Mhm.
I've done a lot in Arizona and Nevada and Utah and New Mexico and a lot of that part. So I'm not that familiar with the East Coast, but I'm in Minnesota right now. I have, like you said, fond place in my heart. I come back here every single year, but my license plate says Florida. I drive an orange car with an orange, like in God we
Oh,
trust
yeah.
license plate. Orange
It's
is my favorite
coordinated.
color. It's the sunrise, it's the sunset, it's that color that I like. That's yeah, how do you start your day and how do you finish your day? It matters. What last question, and then we're going to talk business a little bit. What does home look like for you today? You said you're no longer a nomad, but what does
Yeah.
home look like for you today?
Home looks like community
Okay.
because when I was out nomading, I felt an acute lack of community. And actually, even though Northern Virginia is home for me, when I was living there this past time, the 4 years before I nomaded, I didn't feel like I had a very tight knit community around me.
Yeah.
Some friends here and there, but it's very transitionary area. And so, while I was nomading, everywhere that I was, I didn't belong anywhere. I'd be somewhere for a week or 2 weeks or, even a month, whatever it was, but I didn't belong there. And
Hmm.
so I very intentionally was looking for where I could build community. And I found it. And I have done that in the past 9 months since I moved here. Community is like, people are like, wait, how long have you lived here? Wow. Like they can't believe because I've built such a um, I don't know, expansive, I guess, community. And that was intentional. This is what happens when you step into things intentionally. And so, Charlotte as a whole, community, my apartment, my intention was to build a nest, and I have done that as well.
Love it. Yeah, I did a post just this week about my prior. Somebody asked, "What is your priority in life right now?" And I did. I guess it wasn't a post;
Mm,
it was a comment, and it was like community. Exactly what you said,
mhm.
community, because we, as human beings, we have the desire to belong.
Yes.
That famous quote that everybody shouts: "We need to be seen and heard, and know that we say what matters." I think that came from Oprah, or at least she's credited with it. But it's that belonging that we
Mhm.
get. And it's interesting that you say that. I find that the easiest way for me to build community is to bring people together with food. Like every place I've
Yes.
gone,
Yes.
when I first got to New Smyrna Beach, I got there the first or second week in November, and then it was a condo community, and I was in an Airbnb there, and they had on the bulletin board that they were having a Thanksgiving meal, and you needed to bring something. So I brought something, showed up at the meal, and instantly I met 30 people in there, and
Yep.
people, who are you? What do you do? Oh, I'm nomadic, and
Yep.
I'm going to be here for, this many months. And then they introduced me to everybody that was in that room, and we all ate together, and they continued to have meals together. And I think when we can invite people in, it might be scary to bring people together, but somehow, even if you have to meet in a park, if you don't want people in your house, if you can sit down and have a meal with somebody. I read one time that it's the most intimate thing you can do besides having sex with somebody.
Hmm.
Like it's the most intimate thing you can do is actually eat with somebody. And so there's this kind of bond, a soul connection, because
Yeah.
we're nurturing our bodies, we're feeding ourselves, and you're doing it in the presence of somebody else, and there's this connection that happens. So I've built
Yeah.
community every place that I was, whether it was in Tennessee or in, I was in Lake of the Ozarks for a couple of weeks, and everything has been built around dining. I try to get myself into places where we can eat together. Or if I'm in a restaurant eating by myself, I'll order an appetizer, say, put half on my plate and take the other half and send it to that table over there. And people oftentimes will come over and join me, or they'll at least say hi and we'll have a 10-minute conversation. But it's like this instant connection, this community can happen. Now, it's not lifelong friend community, but some
Hmm.
people I've stayed in touch with for many, many months. So,
Yeah, well, humans are wired to connect interpersonally. So all of this virtual stuff that we do is good and it's not the same.
yeah.
And so another reason why I was nomading was it gave me the opportunity to meet up with people that I had only known virtually and meet up with them and have coffee or have a meal or whatever it was. And it's also the reason why I started hosting gratitude dinners here in Charlotte, um, to bring people together and over gratitude as the theme, even more powerful.
Yeah. I teach a wellness workshop on Saturday mornings, and last year I did a 600-mile trip through Wisconsin for all the people that live there that come to that meeting on Saturday mornings. And I showed up at the door, knocked, and said hi. And they're like, and they give me a big hug. It's like, come in, let me feed you.
Hmm.
So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that. And folks, I hope you get to experience some of this stuff. Experience some surrender in your life. Where can you surrender? Who can you invite to have a meal with you? And how are you settled into your community? And do you need to expand your reach for that? Shifting gears. Fine is a four-letter word.
Yes,
What
it is.
inspired that title? And tell me about your podcast. You're on mine, but let's share with the folks, like, what do you talk about on your podcast?
Yeah, I've been hosting Fine is a four-letter word for a little more than 4 years, coming up on episode 200. And it started because, one, a lot of the conversations I was having with my friends as we were getting into our 50s was, life is fine. It's fine. It really, for me, going back even a couple years before that, my mom passed away, and it's been 11 years now. She was only 73 years old. And after she passed, I started thinking, how do I want my life to be? If I only have another 25 years, what do I want it to look like? And how do I want the next 20 years to be, do I want the next 20 years to be the same as the last 20? Not that there was anything wrong with the last 20. They were fine. And do I want to just live a life of everything is fine? And so if I don't want to live it the same, how will I change it?
Beautiful. So, are you interviewing guests with that, or this is
Mhm.
your perspective? What is
Oh,
how do you do
yeah.
your
It is
podcast?
primarily an interview show, and it's
Okay.
people, it's stories from people of a time in their life when they said everything was fine and it was not fine at all. And I have been blessed and honored to hear the most incredible stories because you know
I
that
do.
the podcast studio, even though it's virtual, is a very intimate space, and people tell me things all the time. "Oh, I never told anybody that, or I haven't thought about that since I was 8 years old. Oh my gosh, I never put those things together."
Mhm.
It's a lot of revelation happening for the guest, but it is the incredible stories and the range of stories because everybody has a story.
Yeah.
Some people's fine is, yeah, it wasn't even fine. Like, you wouldn't even say it was fine. It was
Yeah.
beyond,
It's
it was
just a word. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That we throw
But
out
but
of
the whole
convenience.
reason is that exactly when we meet up in our society, it's like, "Hey Lisa, how are you doing?" "I'm
Fine.
fine." Anytime, and it's just the throwaway word that people use. And
Mhm.
anytime somebody uses it, they're not fine.
No.
Like if you were doing better than fine, you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, fantastic. I'm super excited about this." Whatever it is. If you just say fine, it's not fine.
Yeah.
And on the other side, people who hear you say that don't usually dig in.
Yeah.
Oh, what's going on? They just let it go.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I am not that person. I always say, "Ooh, you can't use that word with me. You can never use that word with me. I need to know more because there's something deeper. Come on, let's go have coffee. Come
Yeah.
on, let's go have
Yeah.
something to eat." And so, do you do that? Because I mean, this is the world that you've created. This is the world that you live in. You're bringing folks into
Yeah.
this fine community. Do you push the envelope with people when you're out and about? When somebody says, "I'm doing fine," do you take that to the next level or do you let it pass?
Nobody usually says I'm fine to me, especially
Okay.
if they know
Interesting.
I have this show. But if they did say it, depending, I mean, if it was like a clerk in a store, I would let it go because I'm
Yeah.
not gonna, there's a line behind me, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But if I was at a networking event and somebody said it, I would dig
You
in.
push it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even a clerk in a store, if somebody said, I'm fine, I'm horrible about this. And I know I shouldn't do this, but I reach out and kind of grab their arm or their wrist or their hand, or I'll put my hand next to theirs and say, well, I hope that the rest of your day becomes joyful and more empowered. So, like
Mm.
leave them with something.
Hmm.
I just can't even stop there when somebody says that because we have a finite number of days
Yeah.
and nights and moments, and they go so fast. If you're
Yeah.
living in fine, you're missing out on everything that life has to offer. And
Yeah.
we can shift some of that with the power of our language and our self-talk, which I said we're going to get here. How the words we use shape our reality. And fine is on my do not. When I was a kid, my dad would slap our hands if we said, I can't.
Mm-mm.
He'd slap your hand and say, really? Really? Now go do it.
Uh-huh.
There were certain words that we were not allowed to use. Yeah. So I'm very aware of conscious language. By no means am I perfect at it, but friends know, and I talk about conscious language. So if they catch me using I call them poor me or pity words, poor me or having a pity party. In fact, I was divorced after being with my husband for 29 years, and I was having pretty consistent pity parties. And I would have a friend who would call periodically, and she'd say, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm sitting on the couch." She said, "5 minutes, I'm setting the timer. And if you don't stop that pity party in 5 minutes, I'm going to come over there and dump water on your head." Or, she'd come up with
Yeah.
something elaborate. She was hysterical, but she really helped pull me out of those pity parties. It's like, it happened. What are you going to do about it? Like,
Yeah.
let's not
Well,
sit and dwell in it. So
I
let's go there.
agreed.
Self-talk.
I think it's important because people will say, well, it's just semantics. No, it's not. It is
Mhm.
not. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that it's okay to feel the emotions though.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
sure, not marinate in them for, you know, years, but if you're feeling sad or frustrated or upset or guilty or like, not guilty is not necessary, but the emotions, like whatever the emotions are, it could be guilt, it could be shame, feel it, feel it. Like, and then let it go.
Yeah.
Like
The
the
pity
only
party is
way
getting stuck in
through,
it or medicating it.
yes,
Medicating
yes,
is another one. Yeah. Like,
right.
let's experience all of life's emotions, the good,
Yeah.
the bad. Yeah. There's nothing
Yeah,
wrong
I
with
want
it.
to make sure that listeners are hearing like we're not just like, oh, stop complaining or stop
Don't shove it in.
crying.
Don't
Yeah,
stuff it down
right.
because that causes that causes dis-ease in the body.
Yes,
We know
exactly.
that most most illnesses have an emotional component to them. They
Mhm.
have dis-ease or
Yep.
create dis-ease in the body. But it's the conscious language that I want to talk about because you
Yeah.
talked about that as part of who you are and the coaching that you used to do. Conscious language. So how does conscious language fit into your conversations, into your life, into how you work with folks? The influence that you're having on corporations
Mhm.
and their employees using a powerful language and powerful self-talk.
It's about being intentional with your words. Again, we come back to this word intentional and
Yeah,
paying, which could be interchangeable with conscious, being
yeah,
aware of what you're saying.
yeah,
And so when people, to me, it makes me like it feels like I don't like that word, but the whole word around want, like I want to do this, or and even worse, try. I'll try.
yeah,
Okay, go ahead and try. What is it? Yoda. There is do or do not, no try.
yeah.
That was paraphrased badly because he said it in a different way. But essentially, there is no try. Like, try to move that pencil and then somebody will move it. Well, you didn't try, you did it. There is no try. And
No.
so that kind of sets me off. But that whole want, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Do you have an intention to do it, or are you just thinking about doing it? Because want creates more want.
Mhm.
Like, I want, and then the universe will deliver to you wanting, and
What
you will
word could
never
we
get
replace
there.
that with? Things that come to mind are manifest, create,
Yeah.
develop. Like
Intent.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Attempt. I mean,
yeah,
when you're doing try, attempt, I'm
yeah,
attempting.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, it is really important to pay attention to the words because your subconscious is listening,
Hmm.
always listening. And so whatever you're saying out loud is giving even more power to what you're saying internally. And so it's important to be very careful about the words you're using, especially when you're talking to yourself, but also when you're talking to other people. You can't take words back. That kid thing we used to say, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me
Hurt
or
me.
something.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Words
That
will
is
never.
not true.
Yeah,
They can be very damaging.
yeah,
They can equally be very empowering.
yeah. And that's why we've had such a movement with the affirmations, and so many motivational speakers were talking about affirmations. It started way back.
Yeah.
For my first exposure was probably Zig Ziglar.
Hmm.
And see in the book, See You at the Top, and him talking about stinking thinking. Like my dad
Uh-huh.
always used to talk
Uh-huh.
about stinking thinking, or I should. And he would make comments like, stop shooting on yourself.
Yes,
You
exactly.
know, there's
I'm very conscious of that word as well. And sometimes I catch myself still using it.
yeah, rather than I choose to. Either you
Uh-huh.
choose not to or you choose to, but there is no should.
Right.
You get to make a
Or
choice.
it would behoove. I love that word.
Uh,
It's not used enough, right? It would behoove you to.
yeah, that's awesome. Zen Rabbit, that's your brand.
Uh-huh.
You founded that company. Tell us about that.
Zen Rabbit was founded back in 2003 when I was making these gratitude cookies that I mentioned earlier. And the gratitude cookies were based on a family recipe, kind of a cross between a butter and a sugar cookie. And I was customizing the packages for businesses as a way for them to say thank you to clients and referral sources. And that's where the name Zen Rabbit first came into use.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a whole story about that on my website. But uh, as in the past 20, however many years that is, it's been through several iterations. So I think I'm on Zen Rabbit 4.0 now or something.
Yeah.
So, but as a name, because I have a marketing background,
Right.
before I was entrepreneurial, I was in marketing, corporate communications. Nobody ever forgets the name Zen Rabbit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's just carried through with all the different iterations of my business. And I know you probably can't see because it's way back there and it's kind of hiding behind my bookcase, but there is a Florida license plate that says Zen Rabbit. And the one that is on my car now for Virginia, also Zen Rabbit.
Rabbit. I love it. Yeah. It's such a unique name. And I thought, what does she do with this? When I was putting together the bio, I
Yeah.
was like, I need to know more about that. So of course, I had to go figure it out and search
Yeah.
for it. But the gratitude has played such an important role. And you
Yes.
talk about stillness and you talk about tea. When I think of tea, I think of stillness. It's that
Mm.
time, it's contemplative. When I have my coffee,
Yeah.
it's generally at sunrise. Even in the evenings, I love sunset. When the sun is starting to set, I was staying with a friend of mine in New Smyrna Beach. We watched the sunset almost every single night, and we were on the beach, so we could walk to the
Hmm.
beach. We could sit out on the balcony. We'd just walk out to the steps, and we would watch that sunset. And we didn't need to talk. It was just this stillness that we got to
Hmm.
experience. The day is ending. Let's reflect upon that. Those are my two favorite times of the day. So my question is, how do all these things play a role in your transformational work?
Hmm. The gratitude for sure is, I mean, it's so powerful as a concept, but as an energy, the energetic vibration of gratitude, I've been told, I've read, I've studied, is the highest. I've had some people say
What is
love.
love? Some
I,
people say, yeah,
so, yeah, it's so there's some dispute there.
yeah,
At the same time, gratitude, I mean, you could say they're the same, that gratitude is love.
yeah.
Gratitude, I've had people ask me, not everybody feels things the same way. So when you talk about getting into the feeling of gratitude,
Mhm.
sometimes people are confused. Well, what does that feel like? Oh, you know what? It feels like joy. That's what it feels like. And so getting yourself into this place of gratitude, no matter what is happening, whether your circumstances are what you would like to have, or whether they are your unpreferred circumstances, as someone has recently taught me to say, feeling gratitude regardless. I am so grateful that this is where I am right now because everything that's happening right now is happening for me, even if I don't understand why or why it's not my preferred circumstance. I can still be grateful for what is right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And when you are in that feeling of gratitude, your energetic vibration is as high as it can get.
Mhm.
And when you're in that high energetic vibration, that's what brings preferred circumstances to you. So,
Yeah.
gratitude is just, yeah, it's also been a through line. And uh, in my business, for sure. And I mentioned that after my mom passed, and I like don't want to hurt, like, it's like, this is significant.
My mom passed 14 months ago. That's the month that I left and started becoming a nomad. So
Yeah.
I know
Well,
exactly where you're coming
when
from.
people say, what introduced you to gratitude? Like, I
Yeah.
could never really pinpoint it. And in thinking about it later, after, probably a few years after my mom passed, the last words she spoke, I'm gonna get choked up,
That's okay.
were thank you to the hospice worker.
Yeah.
So I must have I must have unconsciously, subconsciously seen her operating that way in the world. And then, so my dad passed last August, so not even quite a year ago, and
Mine
I
was
was there.
reversed. My dad passed first, and 9 months later, my mom passed last June.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
so it was. I mean, my
A little
parents
more.
weren't still
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
but yeah, so 11 months ago, and
Mhm.
because I was nomading, I had the opportunity. I was there. I was there
Yeah.
for both of my parents in the
Me too.
room, and the last words he spoke were the same. Like, what the
Wow.
hell?
Ah,
I never realized like that I was what's the word I'm looking for? Just like absorbing this lesson about gratitude.
yeah.
And so I'm constantly talking about it because I think it's so important for a successful life. You can have success in terms of material things, but if you don't feel gratitude for them, I feel a little sorry for you.
Well, you're always hustling, you're always chasing. You can never sit, be at peace and
Yes.
enjoy that.
That
And
is
that's what
that's exactly.
gratitude gives us. It's the greatest gift. I did write a book, and that book, it started out as a memoir to the journey I walked with my mom and dad for being a care provider for them for 7 years and then
Yeah.
them passing 9 months apart. So much gratitude. Like I got to rearrange my life and, you know, whatever money I had, I poured into being able to have that experience. Like I
Yeah.
left what I was doing. I did a little bit of virtual work. I tried to bring in a little bit of money, but it was really all about them
Yeah.
ending their life and that journey home. I even have the title of the book. It's called The Long Goodbye, but I can't seem to sit down and write the memoir. But what you just expressed was what I think I was missing. What my takeaway was from that experience to be with them. When my dad would start reminiscing and tell me stories that I had never heard before, I'd be on my phone going, I have to
Yeah.
cancel. Here's my calendar. Please reschedule.
Yeah.
And I'd shift my whole day and I would be fully
Yeah.
be present, and we
Yeah.
would eat and we would have tea, or we were just in conversation. And
Yeah.
same with my mom. She had brain cancer, went blind. And so she couldn't see. I was her ears, her eyes. I was the person that dressed her and bathed her and fed her, and all of the things. And to actually surrender to that process
Mhm.
and be grateful that I got to have that experience rather than what so many of us have been programmed to do is put them in a nursing home. When we look to other countries like Japan or even China, where their elders are part of the family, like
Hmm.
they come back together, they live with their own kids and their grandkids, and they pour into their grandkids. The reason I'm a Floridian is I moved my mom and dad to Florida so they could be closer to their nieces, their great grandchildren, their grandchildren and great grandchildren.
Uh-huh.
They're my nieces and nephews, so I say that wrong, but yeah, I said, I'll take you anywhere in the world you want to go when, things kind of had rolled over and we knew there wasn't a lot of time left. And they got there and they surged. They surged. They had,
Hmm.
we were thinking not long and, 3.5 years later, they were still there.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how we can shift the energy when we surrender to what's happening in our life and fully experience it, take on the emotions, grieving, sorrow, happiness, joy. We don't need to medicate the world and become
Right.
numb to it when we can have those experiences, move through them and get into the experience of gratitude. And it may start slow, but it rises, it raises our energy, it raises our vibration of who we are and who we can be and how we can live in the world.
Yeah, it's important to note that surrender doesn't mean giving up.
No.
It's not giving up, it's accepting
Mm-hmm.
and not fighting against, what you resist persists.
Mm-hmm.
Just let go. Let go. See
Yeah,
what
I think
happens.
there's a difference, like from like here we're pushing back, and to me,
Right.
surrender is like the open arm, open hands,
Yeah,
open
open to
arms. Like,
receiving.
hmm
Yes.
yeah. Uh, how do you know when you've outgrown the life you're living? Like I was living one way, and then this whole transformation happened of yeah, my life doesn't look anything like it used to. How do you know when and I'll use the word outgrown. You can plug in any word you want. Maybe it's not outgrown, but how do you know? Like, I hear so many people say they're longing for, in the opening, I talked about it feels like something's missing. I have all the money. I have the great job. I
Hmm.
have the great title. I have. Something's missing. I run into so many high
Yep.
achievers and something is missing. How do we know that we've give me a different word if it's not that, but outgrown the life you're living and you wanting to move into this new space? Maybe it's a spiritual space. Maybe it's a greater, deeper connection with the world we come from or the people that are in it.
That's one of the two reasons I really started the podcast
Mhm.
was my podcast was because, or one of, yeah, I wanted people to understand that one, there's nothing wrong with you.
Mm-mm.
And two, that you're not alone. But going back to number one, there's nothing wrong with you when people are looking around and saying, I have this beautiful family, I have this job that's so incredible, and I live in this beautiful place, and I'm not happy. I'm not happy. So there must be something wrong with me. No, there's nothing wrong with you. The soul is designed to create and grow consistently throughout your entire life. So this is the sign that your soul is longing for growth. And it's
Mhm.
time for you to explore how you can step into that. Instead of shying away from it, instead of saying, oh, I could never do that. What did I just see earlier today? And it was on social media and it was somebody posting the question. Oh, right. It was one of my past guests who also hosts a show. He had a guest on who asks the question, what would have to be true for whatever it is to happen? What would have to be true for me to be able to go out and nomad for a year? Like, what would have to be, and maybe you can switch the word true. What would have to happen? Or what would the circumstances need to be? And opening to possibility instead of shutting it down. I could never do that because I still have kids in school or because I have to work, because like you're just limiting yourself then. What if you opened
It's that
to
conscious language thing again, isn't it?
opportunities?
It's like,
Yeah.
what question are we asking? Are we
Uh-huh.
asking the question from the negative, or are we asking from
Yeah.
the what can't happen, or are we asking the question from there's a real possibility, like I could
Yes.
make that happen. There's a real
Yes.
possibility that I could be a nomad if blah blah blah, or
Mhm.
creating connection and community in a disconnected world. Like, how do we
Yeah.
connect with more people rather than being disconnected from our world? How do we start having these conversations? There's a lot of people who are being nomadic. I cannot believe how many people have come out of the woodwork and said, oh yeah, I've been living in an RV. Had no idea. I've been doing business with this person for over a year. You didn't know I lived in an RV? And I was like, I had no idea. Cause you use the fake
Right.
background and it never came up. I didn't ask, where did you live? What does life look like for you? But when I started outwardly expressing my lifestyle, other people just came out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
So that's that connection, the community and the connection in this disconnected world. If you're really wanting to desire, if you desire something, let people know what you desire. And those other people who are experiencing it may show up and show you how you can do that.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah. You just brought up a really good point of the what if question because
yeah,
most people ask, I could never do that. What if all these bad things happened? Like
yeah.
what if I, ran out of gas, like I don't know, ridiculous things. What if I ran out of gas? What if I, needed a new
Had
phone,
hives from
whatever.
head to toe while I was in Africa and no doctor and no telephone.
Yeah.
That happened.
However, what if you asked the what if question as what if the best thing happened? What
Yeah.
if you got to experience all these amazing other people? And what if you got to see all of these beautiful places that you've only heard about? What if? Why do we always go to the negative what if? And the
Mhm.
worrying, and by the way, are you aware of what worrying? Well, now I just ruined it. I was going to say, I tried. Never mind. What do you call visualizing? We're told to visualize that's a good way to put out into the universe what
Sure.
you would like to have is to visualize. And so I was going to say, what do you call visualizing negative outcomes? But I already ruined it. It's worrying.
Worry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. So do the opposite. Put out into the world the visualization of what you would like to have instead of what you're afraid might happen,
Yeah. Yeah.
which 95% of the time never happens.
Never happens. Yeah. Even if you have to what if that negativity, go back in time. Like
Hmm.
when you're asking those what if questions, there's a strong possibility that you've already experienced that what if in the past and you came through it with shining
Hmm.
colors. You were able to find that courage and be brave and all of those things that we start to fear. You've probably already experienced it, especially my audience, age range,
Hmm.
we're a little bit more mature. Maybe not, but this may not be true for young people. But you see that even with kids when they fall down and they get skin knees, and the next time they do it, they can oftentimes shake it off because they
Hmm.
already had that experience. They know what it's like to be on the other side of it. But as adults, sometimes we forget, I've already had hard times. I've already had trauma. I've already experienced grief when my grandmother died. This is a familiar feeling, and I survived it. I was okay on the other side of it. So giving ourselves permission to be okay in that experience sometimes and work our way through it. The other one I think of is how kindness, even to
Hmm.
strangers, is a radical act of healing to us. My
Yes.
mom, on her deathbed. Like we know she doesn't have any time. She had fallen and broke her pelvis, and we're in the hospital. We're in rehab, and there wasn't a lot that they could do, but I couldn't manage her at that
Hmm.
time physically. So every single day I would go there. Um, my sister and I would be there for every single meal, and I would put her in the wheelchair, and we would go visit all the other people in the nursing home, and my mom would just light up
Hmm.
because she's
Yeah.
dying. She has limited amount of days, but the joy that she brought to people who are recovering and going through
Yeah.
some tough stuff, but probably not dying. We were in a
Yeah.
rehab center. We
Hmm.
weren't in a nursing home place, so probably not dying. And so to see that, to watch that is amazing to me. How even these radical acts of, or I'm sorry, these acts of kindness can cause these radical acts of healing in people.
Yeah.
So, and that one of the ladies that we visited still stays in touch to me. I think she's in her 80s,
Oh, that's so
and she's
sweet.
on Facebook. Her family put her on Facebook. She still reaches out to me, and when I post something about my mom on my mom's birthday, she shared some stories with me and stuff. So, like, there's these connections that happen when we show kindness to other people. Thoughts?
Yes. Yes. I published a couple weeks ago an interview on my show with Neil Donald Walsh, who is the author of Conversations with God
Oh, okay.
books and all of those. And we talked about this and about this giving to others and how it affects us. And what it comes down to is what we do for others, we're doing for ourselves, because in the universal energy, we are all one.
Yeah.
And so when you do an act of kindness for someone else, of course it makes you feel good, because you're essentially, we're all one. You're doing a kindness for yourself, really.
It comes back. Whatever.
Mhm.
I think my dad always used to say, "Whatever you put out comes back tenfold." Are
Yep.
you sure you want to put that into the world? He would say that
Yes.
all the time. Are you sure you want to put
Yes.
that into the world? You don't
Yes.
want to show up with a happy face. You want everybody to frown at you, like a smile was mandatory.
Kindness, though, is intentional.
It
It
is.
is intentional. And we get to choose every day how to show up in the world. And our default tends to be negativity as a whole.
That
And
is that the brain is built that way for protecting us, right? Our
yes,
amphibian
and
brain
I
is
think society and social media especially has reinforced that.
sure.
However, that doesn't mean that we have to stay on default.
Sure.
Again, coming back to being intentional, you get to choose every day when you wake up. How do I want my day to be? How do I want to show up in the world today?
To the best of my ability. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much. I'm going to leave you one final question. Let's wrap this up. And the question is, why is now always the right time to begin again?
Because that's all we have.
Yeah.
There is only now. So, and what's that? I don't know. I don't think it's a biblical saying, but I think it's one of the wise men of, or wise women of thousands of years ago. If not now, when?
Yeah. If not you, who?
Yeah. Yeah. This is the only time we have right now, this minute, this minute, this minute, this minute, this minute.
Yeah.
When else are you going to do it? Someday is not a day on the calendar. So now
Beautiful.
works great.
If students want to get in touch with you or find you, we know the podcast. Fine is a 4-letter word. Where else can folks find you?
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn, because I hang out there all the time. So yeah,
Perfect.
go find me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Lovely. And we'll have her links to all of the different social places that you can find her as well. Do you want me to put your email in the notes as well, or no?
Sure.
Okay.
Somebody wants to
All of
email
her,
me.
yep, all of her contact information will be in the notes. If you can't find the notes for whatever reason, but you can find me, make sure you reach out and I will get you connected. Closing thoughts from me. Lori reminds us that fine might be familiar, but it's not where the magic lives. Whether you're sipping tea or sitting in stillness or searching for your next step, the path to fulfillment starts with honest reflection and a willingness to build those castles in the sky. Build those foundations for your life. If you've felt seen, stirred, or soothed by today's episode, share it with somebody who needs a little bit of insight too. And by all means, come back next week because we'll have another extraordinary guest. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you, Lori, for being with me. Thanks for joining me on A Bit of Insight. To get more involved with our wellness community, grab a copy of my book, Live Well, Travel Far, or to explore our travel offerings, visit the website at insightcenterforwellness.com. And if today's episode gave you something to think about, leave a review and please share it with a friend. This is Lisa Mosbey reminding you to live well, travel far, and always follow your insight.